Well, it's a very good morning from him, and of course, it's a very good morning from me. I must get used to that new emblem that comes up out on that front part of the screen here. Welcome to my mortgage live stream. Hope you're well. Hope you've enjoyed your weekend. Festival of rugby, if you're into that sort of stuff, of course. So very good matches all round. England are into the semis, which nobody thought they would. Often the underdog does tend to sneak through, doesn't it, without too much limelight. But we'll see how things pan out. Welcome to the live stream this week. Got a couple of good topics for you in your mortgage advisory CPD or updating or whatever you're wanting to do, as opposed to listening to my podcast today and watching my live stream. So yeah, it's getting cold, isn't it? You noticed it's a bit cold last night. Hot water bottles are coming out. It's certainly coming into autumn, winter. Christmas is only a couple of months away, which is quite exciting, isn't it? Got the poppy, of course, there we are, over there, which of course is key now, October. So make sure that you're wearing your poppy with pride. I think that's very important that we do that. Now, let's get on to our first topic. What I want to do now is take you over to something that's concerning a few people actually on tax information for the exam. So I'm going to come up with that in a second. How do you handle the demise of the tax sheet, which is coming up in a minute? Then I've got my next tranche of MCOB. So we're taking a look at the second part of MCOB 4, which is about providing advice, and it might help you to understand why apps and artificial intelligence are starting to take over quite a lot of basic business. And then if time allows, got a nice little session for you on self-talk, on what you talk to yourself, how you talk to yourself when it comes to referrals. So I've got that coming up a little bit later for you. So anyway, let's get cracking with our first topic, shall we? And I'm going to head over to the whiteboard, which I've pre-prepared a few bits and pieces on there, and I'll share with you what that all means when we get there. Before I go there, I hope you're all right. I hope you're good and enjoying yourself in this wonderful sector of ours, as we call it. Anyway, let's head over to that whiteboard, shall we, and get on with the first major session. So welcome to my short session on the demise of the tax sheet, as I call it. Now, I've got something prepared here, which I'll share with you in a second or two. But a few students and candidates have been emailing me saying, oh my God, but what's happening? The tax sheet's being withdrawn. And I was talking to my mates over at the LIBF, and they were saying that don't worry, you're not going to be tested on what's in the tax sheet. So previously, they used to provide you a tax sheet, but now they're not doing that. But they're arguing that they're not going to ask you questions which require you to memorize information from the tax sheet. If they do ask you questions, then they'll probably have it in the question itself or in the case study or something like that. And that's probably what they'll do. However, there may be a few rogue old questions creeping in. So my view is this: that you need to be more comfortable with the basics of the tax sheet. And I've got a nice little visual aid for you, which I'll take you through, and then you can maybe copy it or do a screenshot of it and use it as preparation for the taxes in the exam. So enough of that. Let's go to my whiteboard. Now, as you can see on my whiteboard here, I pre-prepared 4 main taxes for CMAT 1 and CMAT 2, which of course used to be in the tax sheet. But what we want to do now is to see what we can do about memorizing some of these things. But not memorizing, but getting more familiar with some of the key numbers on one sheet of paper. So I've got stamp duty, land tax, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, and income tax for you. Let's start off with stamp duty land tax, or SDLT as we like to call it. Sounds like a burger from a fast food restaurant, SDLT, or was that a BLT? But anyway, it doesn't matter. Now, let's take a look at some numbers and all those good things for you, things that you need to be familiar with. Now, first of all, stamp duty land tax is payable when you buy land or a house. Most of our customers buy houses, don't they? Some buy land, but most buy houses. And it's a rate of tax according to the price of the house on a slab system. Now, thankfully, it's all simplified. So the first slab that you need to be aware of is this one here, 250,000. There, 250,000. It's the first slab that you need to be aware of. The second slab is 925,000. I'm not saying you should memorize these, but it might be a bit useful if you did. Now, the whole point is that you pay stamp duty of 0% up to 250, and then you pay 5% between 250 and 925, and then you pay at 10% above that. Now that's not too bad. That's not a bad little thing to remember. That's really where I'm going with this one. Obviously there are some exceptions. Of course there are. Of course there's exceptions, and I've got a couple for you which I'll talk you through that you need to be comfortable with. First of all, we have people who buy a second home, not second home buyers. I mean, I'm a fifth, sixth, seventh home buyer. Now, I only own one house. Believe me, I do. So I only pay the normal rate. But if you're buying a second home or buy to let, second homers, as we like to call them, sounds like somebody from The Simpsons, doesn't it? Second homers, they pay plus 3% on their stamp duty. So that's something to bear in mind as well. First time buyers, FTBs, first time buyers, they have a much better exemption, up to, let's get the right figure for you, 425, there you go, to 5k, they pay at 0%. So that's something to remember as well. And the other thing as well is the exam probably won't have Scottish or Welsh numbers. There you go. In it. It might do. If it does, it will tell you what they are. These are English numbers when it comes to it. I'm not being political here. I'm just saying what happens with the exam. So if you can like snapshot that, that's not a bad little way of remembering that one. Now, capital gains tax. Again, I've pre-prepared some stuff here. Capital gains tax is payable on owning an asset and selling it, making a gain and paying on that as well. And there's the numbers first of all for capital gains tax here. You've got basic rate tax and you've got high rate tax, and that's it really. But the rates are different. For basic rate taxpayers, you pay at 10% at the moment, and for high rate taxpayers, you pay at 20%, and that's also for additional rate taxpayers as well. Couple of things for you just to be aware here. Let's just put my 3 lines across here for you. 1, 2, 3. Couple of little miscellaneous things on capital gains tax. You have an annual exemption. Now, the annual exemption, of course, is how much each year you can exclude from your capital gains tax bill. And at the moment, it's £6,000 for this tax year, but next tax year is going down to £3,000. So if you're watching this like in 2025, you know it's probably gone down to 3, and 2026 has probably gone completely. But also, you have the second homer one. Again, I call it the same thing, second homer. Somebody buying a second home, a holiday home, or a buy-to-let property or something. Somebody owns a second property, really. You plus 8%. So that's probably easy enough to remember that, isn't it, when it comes to it? That's capital gains tax. Again, I'm not saying you memorize this, but get familiar with it. That's the key thing before the exam. Let's whiz over to income tax, which I've already started here. My famous bucket. If you've seen my bucket videos on income tax, it'll become quite familiar for you. There's a few figures here going on. You've got 3 rates of tax, hence the lines there that I've drawn for you. The first one is up to 37. Let's put the figure in there for you. 37,700. Then you've got 125, 125,000, 140. Odd number that, but there we go. Now these are the taxable incomes in which you pay your tax, and there's 3. That's all it is. There's the basic rate at 20%. You've got the higher rate at 40%, and then you've got additional rate at 45%. And these are the slabs of income that you charge those rates of tax to. Easy enough, really, isn't it? Again, a couple of miscellaneous things for you. Let's just put those along here. There you go. A couple of miscellaneous thoughts and concepts for you as well. Firstly, you have a personal allowance, a PA. Now, the personal allowance has been frozen at 12,570 for quite a while now. In other words, you can earn up to that amount of money without paying tax, and then you start getting slabbed over here. So that's nice and easy to remember that as well. Now, for savings tax, you have a personal savings allowance. So the savings, there you go, personal savings allowance, or PSA as we call it, has £1,000 for basic rate taxpayers and £500 for high rate taxpayers. basic rate taxpayers. There you go. So that's something to remember. That means that you can earn £1,000 in interest as a base rate taxpayer and not pay any tax. It's nice. Now there is dividend tax, but I've left those out because they're horribly complicated numbers, and nobody ever needs to remember those because that's just there's more things important in life than remembering those. They'll quote those in the exam definitely. Which then leaves inheritance tax, our favourite. Now, inheritance tax, of course, different type of tax altogether. Again, I've got this little banding thing going on here because at the moment you've got a couple of chunks here, as I put up here. The first 325, there you go, £1,000 is your nil rate band. So that's nil rate band there. Then you've got another 175,000. Let's put that up there for you. Of your main residence nil rate band, if your estate consists mostly of a property that's your own residence passing on to your kids. So you can effectively get 500,000 exempted per person, that is, of course. Couples and civil partners can transfer that across. So that's a nice one to remember as well. The other thing about inheritance tax, you give stuff away. You have gifts. So let's put a couple of things in here for you in red. So let's just put these in there for you. There you go. So we know where we stand with that. Now you can give money away. In other words, you can spend your estate, get rid of it, spend it as much as you want. Most people give it to their next of kin or their children at an earlier stage, don't they? So we have what's called gifts. Let's put this one in there for you. Gifts. Now there's the potentially exempt transfer, the PET. Give a large amount of money away and you have to live for 7 years, and you've got this 7-year period thing going on here. And I've got different dates here now. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So you've got 1 to 3 years. And the idea is the longer you live, the less of a percentage of that gift is added to your assets. You know that one. And here we've got 100% here. And then it goes down to 80, 60, 40, 20, and then nil after that period. So that's how the PET system works. Lot to remember that one, but easy enough. Of course, if you live until you are beyond 7 years, then you're happy, aren't you? Happy in all respects. There are exempt gifts as well. So there's more gifts which are exempt. There you go. Exempt gifts where you can give money away to various people. So we'll get a different colour now for you, that one. Now there's 4 here to remember, and I'll put these in the order I've got there for you. I've got £250, £250. I've got 3 more. I've got 2,500. Just squeeze these in there for you. I've got 3,000. And the last one, the bigger figure, is I've got 5,000. Now this means that you can give this money away each year to reduce your inheritance tax and reduce your estate quite happily. Beyond these, well, these don't actually count as one of them. Now, the 250 is for all people. You can give as many people 250 quid as you want, which is lovely, isn't it? The 2,500 is for grandparents giving to their grandchildren on a wedding. So it's not an awful lot. Of it. 3,000 is the most that you personally can give away to anyone. That's like a personal allowance, if you like. You can give £3,000 away to anybody you want. And the £5,000 is from a parent to a child, or children, of course, in the event of marriage. There you go. You remember those. You're a better person than I am. But that's the point about that. That's not a bad little aid memoir, actually. If you wanted to take a photograph of that and maybe do it yourself, make it look all posh, you certainly could do. I would probably photograph the original notes and put it on the system for you. But that's a way of remembering the tax sheet. If you memorize that stuff, will it serve you well? Probably not, because they probably will put the information in the exam for you, but you never know, do you? So it's always a good one to be comfortable with. Hope that's been useful. Bye. Hope that's been good for you. Hope you enjoyed that one. Okay, so that's a little bit of an update there for you on your CMAPs if you're planning to do those as well. If you are planning on do CMAPs or you just want to keep up to date, got another one for you on MCOBs, because we love our MCOBs, don't we? So without any further ado, let's go straight over to this whiteboard across here to make sure that we're on the screen over there as well. Now, we did an MCOB 4 last month, a couple of weeks ago, in fact. I want to do part 2 of MCOB 4, which I've entitled MCOB 4 Providing Advice. Now, this is how you give advice as a mortgage advisor. Now, essentially, there's only 2 ways in which you can give advice as a mortgage advisor. So let me just grab a black pen for this one first of all. There's 2 ways you can give advice as a mortgage advisor. The first one is what we like to call qualified advice. There we go. In other words, you're fully qualified, you are CASed, supervised, authorized, pucker, good to go. That's qualified advice, as we call it. You can also give what we call execution only, which we've come across before. This means, of course, that you're not giving advice. And that's broadly how it works. So let's just take a look at the execution side of things first of all and talk about that. First of all, execution only worries compliance officers massively. It probably doesn't affect you because you're probably giving qualified advice all the time. Now, you can't give what they call information only if it's interactive. So if you're interacting with a customer, you can't give information only anymore. We used to be able to do that about 10 years ago. That's all stopped now. You have to either give qualified advice or execution only. Now, there are 3 ways in which you can give execution only. And so we'll keep that over here and we'll put that in blue, I think. The first way you can give execution only is if the customer rejects your advice. Let's squeeze that one here for you. So if you've given advice to a customer or client and they've rejected your advice, they can proceed on an execution only basis. Now, whether you'll process that, probably not. Your compliance officer will just have nightmares. You mention that to them, they just won't want to go that way. And I get that because it's fraught with danger, isn't it? Now, you can also give execution only if there's no interaction at all. Yeah. There's no interaction with the client at all. For example, i.e. app-based. So with an app, of course, there's no people involved, is there? So obviously there's no live chat, anything like that. It's purely the customer makes their decisions based upon information given, but it's not asked for. There's no questions asked. There's no interaction at all. That's how people get their mortgages on apps without human interaction at all. It's kind of self-select service, really, and that's massively increasing in popularity, particularly amongst the young people, because they can learn and understand, and they can understand themselves. So that's a big piece of business, that one as well. The other way you can do execution only is by the type of customer. So the type of customer. Let's squeeze that one in there for you so you can see that. Now, this is a little bit archaic, if truth be told, because you've got 3 types of customer that you could categorize as execution only. You could categorize high net worth customers, and there's some numbers and figures about assets and income. You know, mega rich people, basically, you can make them execution only if you wanted to. It's up to you. Many don't do that because it's so dangerous. You can have the professional customer. If you remember the 3 types of customer that the FCA categorise, you know, the retail client, the professional client, and the market counterparty, we've got professional client there. I was reading an article actually weekend by Peter Hargreaves, who started up Hargreaves Lansdowne. Really good article, actually, smart bloke. And he was saying that he loves dealing with financial services firms because he's still categorised as a professional client. Therefore, he doesn't have to get any long-winded advice because he knows what he's doing. So Peter Hargreaves probably, you know, does know what he's doing. The other one is business. Certain types of businesses can have execution-only business. So, you know, most brokers, advisors don't go down that route. They may go down that route, and I get all that totally. They may go down that route as well. But execution only does make compliance officers really nervous. Now, you've got to be careful because there are 4 main exemptions to all of this. If I squeeze it over here, you can just about see those in red there. First of all, if they are a right to buy customer, this is somebody who's buying their council house or their social housing right to buy. They're not allowed execution only, and they're categorized as vulnerable clients as well. On that subject, of course, vulnerable clients, you definitely don't want to be doing execution for a vulnerable client. That's just ridiculous on all levels, isn't it? Now, they will require qualified advice, naturally. Shared ownership is another one. Quite a boom area, that. It's a massive development in Gloucester by the docks there of shared ownership properties, brilliant ones. But again, they require advice. And debt consolidation, let's squeeze that one in there for you. So if it's remortgage for debt con, they're reconciling various unsecured debts and things and mortgages and things because they probably need to save a few pennies, then that isn't execution only. Now, okay, that's probably alien to you because you probably don't get involved in that anyway, but it's useful for the exam, isn't it? But the thing about advice, though, on the other side, if we just whack across here, qualified advice. What you have to do, of course, with qualified advice is you need to do a full fact find on a retail client. And what we say now is you must provide them with suitable advice. Suitable advice. Now, we're mixing that up now with consumer duty, aren't we, a little bit? Suitable advice, where they have to have the very best outcome at the end, but you still need to provide suitable advice. So how do you do that? Well, you fact find accordingly, and when you fact find, you must look for certain factual information. There's three really. Number one, it must be affordable. Affordable advice. Doesn't have to be cheapest. A lot of brokers think they have to do the cheapest deal for their client. Look at me, I've given suitable advice because I've given them the cheapest 5-year fix. That's not important at all, because one cheap might have lots of fees. You can't do that. But you do have to make sure it's affordable. You have to do affordability assessments on people as well. The big one, though, is it must be appropriate. The advice you give must be appropriate. In other words, you look at things that determine the advice. So the term of the mortgage, for example, the risk of the mortgage method itself is appropriate. The interest rates, whether they're capped, fixed, or whatever, these things all comes down to appropriate advice. And of course, it must be suitable as well from a range of products that you have available to you. So you must look at the range available to you, whether you're whole of market, limited, it must be the most appropriate one from that particular range. And this, as you know, is all put into the KFI Plus, or the ESIS. We have the ESIS, the European Standardized Information Sheet, but it's KFI Pluses now that we tend to use, which summarizes the advice. And then, of course, the suitability letter follows afterwards. Don't have to, by the way, but most do a suitability letter afterwards to confirm the suitability of the advice. And all this stuff needs to be kept for 3 years. There you go. That's MCOB 4. I hope that's been a bit of an update for you on how the market currently stands. It's future-proofed. This, by the way, was done in 2004. I mean, that's 20 years ago. It's future-proof. Very clever, whoever wrote the MCOBs, because you've got all this app-based stuff all ready for the future, haven't you? And you've got qualified advisors over here as well. And some of this stuff, they're vulnerable shared ownership with no execution only. So, hope good update. Bye. There you go. So nice little update for you. I hope you found that interesting and useful. And I'll leave the self-talk one to next week because I wanted to spend a bit more time with that one. So I'll give that to you next week and hope you enjoy that. It's all to do with listening to the radio, but that's coming on to... Because self-talk, of course, is what we all do. And in times of difficulty and stress, our self-talk can get the better of us. I'll give you some techniques to handle that one as well. So that's it from our live stream this week. Hope all is good with you. There's been a few updates there for you as well. As always, make sure that you log on to our database. So there's a little update for you on our database as well. So you can grab that and you can QR code that one. Of course, if you're on podcast and you can't actually see what's going on, then what you want to do there is put me up there so you can see me. What you want to do there is to make sure that you email us somehow or go onto our YouTube channel, leave a comment or something, or just go onto our website and you can enter your details onto our database, and we keep you informed of what's going on, freebies and all sorts of gizmos and gadgets and things like that going on as well. Other than that, I'm going to wish you a very good week. Enjoy your week. It's my birthday tomorrow, so you're very welcome to send me a birthday wishes if you want to. I got plenty of people giving me cards with my age on them. Can you imagine that? But we won't talk about that one until next week when I have achieved that milestone. Anyway, enough of that. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And I'll see you all again next week as well. So let's put a little bit of a video on there to say our farewells and enjoy the rest of your time together. So bye. I just love this video, don't you? It's just really cool with these swirly triangles. All very good stuff, isn't it? Bye.